Welcome to the 5th minute. Today, I'm not going to ask you to let go, because I don't think healing works that way. People love to say, just let it go, as though grief listens, as though anxiety politely leaves when you ask, as though trauma forgets where you live. But people are not machines. You cannot uninstall heartbreak. You cannot delete memories. You cannot erase the parts of yourself that were created just to survive, because pain is rarely random. Most of the time, pain stayed because it believed it had a purpose. Maybe anxiety taught you to prepare for every possible disaster. Maybe perfectionism convinced you that mistakes were dangerous. Maybe anger built walls because being close to people once meant getting hurt. Maybe distraction protected you from thoughts that felt too heavy to carry. Maybe people-pleasing taught you that being needed was safer than being known. Maybe silence became easier than explaining your pain to people who never tried to understand. These things can become prisons, but before they became prisons, they were protection, and that changes everything, because you cannot hate yourself into healing, you cannot shame yourself into peace, you cannot destroy the parts of yourself that were only trying to keep you alive. The version of you who struggled, who made mistakes, who reached for unhealthy things was not your enemy. They were someone trying to survive with the tools they had. Maybe those tools were imperfect, maybe they caused damage. Maybe they kept you stuck longer than they helped, but they were created for a reason, and healing begins when you stop asking, why am I like this, and start asking, what happened that made this make sense? Because understanding yourself is not the same as excusing everything. Compassion is not permission to stay stuck. It is the doorway out. Pain doesn't leave because you defeated it. It leaves when something healthier finally takes its place. So today, I don't want to teach you how to let go. I want to teach you how to grow, because the 5th minute was never about destroying your old life. It was about planting the first seed of your new one. You see, a lot of people imagine healing as a battle. They picture themselves standing over their old selves, holding a sword, declaring victory. But healing is rarely a war, it is a garden. And gardens are not built by destroying what was there. They are built by patiently growing something better. Habits are solutions before they become problems. Most unhealthy habits weren't born because something was wrong with you. They were hired. Scrolling was hired to distract loneliness. Alcohol was hired to quiet the noise. Perfectionism was hired to protect you from rejection. Isolation was hired to create safety. Anger was hired to stand guard. Numbness was hired to make unbearable moments feel survivable. And maybe those things hurt you later. But first, they were armor. They were the shield you built when you didn't know you were allowed to put the shield down. So instead of asking, how do I stop? Ask, what was this trying to do for me? What pain was this helping me escape? What fear was this helping me avoid? What need was this trying to meet? Because every behavior is communication. Every habit is a message, and when you understand the message underneath the habit, you can stop fighting the symptom and start caring for the wound. A person does not change because they hate who they are, they change because they finally believe they are worth protecting. The same way you would care for a wounded animal, you have to learn to care for wounded parts of yourself, not with judgment, not with anger, with patience, because you cannot rush a flower into blooming. You can only create the conditions where it becomes possible, and your healing works the same way. You water the soil, you protect the roots, you give yourself sunlight, and eventually, something begins to grow. Nature hates a vacuum. When something disappears, something else grows, and your mind works the same way. This is why healing cannot only be about removing. Because if you pull out the weeds, but never plant anything new, the garden stays empty, and an empty garden invites old things to return. So stop asking, what do I need to quit? Start asking, what can I add? Lonely, add connection. Take a walk, send a message. Sit outside, allow yourself to be seen. Anxious, add peace. 5 quiet minutes, a breath, a moment where you remind yourself, I am safe right now. Overwhelmed, add clarity. Write 1 page, keep 1 promise. Take 1 step. Lost, add direction. Choose 1 small thing that moves you forward, not the whole journey, just the next step, because the future is not built all at once. It is built in moments, tiny moments, where you choose who you want to become. Healing is not subtraction, it is replacement. Every healthy choice becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. Every promise kept says, I am someone I can trust. Every time you show up for yourself, you repair a relationship, the most important relationship you will ever have, the one between you, and eventually, something incredible happens. The things you once fought every day begin to lose their place in your life. Not because you destroyed them, not because you became perfect, but because you built something stronger. You outgrew the room where your pain lived, and healing is rarely dramatic. It is quiet, it is ordinary. It is hundreds of tiny choices nobody applauds. One sunrise, one walk, one healthy meal, one boundary. One kind thought, one moment where you choose not to return to the person you used to be. One fifth minute, after another, until one day, you look back and realize the thing you thought would follow you forever doesn't know where to find you anymore, not because you abandoned yourself, because you finally chose yourself. You stopped treating your past as something to defeat, and started treating it as something to understand. You stopped asking, why wasn't I stronger, and started asking, how can I support myself now, because the person you were was doing the best they could, and the person you are becoming deserves your effort. You see, there is something nobody tells you about healing. You do not become a new person. You become the person you were always meant to be, the person underneath the fear, the person underneath the shame, the person underneath every mask you had to wear just to survive. For a long time, you may have believed your wounds were proof that something was wrong with you, but what if they were proof that something happened to you, and you kept going anyway? What if the scars you carry are not evidence of weakness, but evidence of endurance? The storm did not prove you were fragile. The fact that you are still standing proves you were stronger than you knew. So don't spend today fighting your past. Spend today building your future, one promise, one choice, one seed, because every seed is a message to tomorrow you. A message that says, I remembered you. I was thinking about you. I chose you, because every small action is a letter written to the person you are becoming. And every day, you decide what that letter says. Will it say, I gave up, or will it say, I showed up, I kept going, I kept my promise, because the future version of you is listening. Even when nobody else is, every choice you make today is a conversation with the person you are becoming tomorrow. And tomorrow you does not need perfection. They need evidence. Evidence that you are willing to try. Evidence that you are willing to care. Evidence that you are willing to keep showing up. The keeper was never the person who came to save you. The keeper was never someone waiting outside yourself. The keeper was the promise you made. The promise that no matter how difficult the road became, you would not abandon yourself along the way. You would learn. You would grow, you would forgive, you would begin again, as many times as necessary, because becoming who you are meant to be is not one decision. It is 1,000 small decisions, made in moments just like this, the fifth minute, the space between what happened and what happens next, the moment where you decide, not who you were, but who you will become, because here, we do not negotiate, we keep promises, and I'll meet you on the fifth minute.